Good afternoon, everyone. I think it's appropriate that I'm following up on the e-bike because we're talking of innovations in the bike industry with innovations in packaging, especially in the flower industry. Now, these are not new ideas that always keep recycling themselves. We're now talking in a different language. And what I want to do is just give a flavor of the opportunity that is out there, not really share too many secrets that don't already exist, but point out to the growers, to the logistics, and to all the different stakeholders what is needed for us to move forward together. Look at the diagram at the top. I mean, this is your typical innovation Zen diagram, or Venn diagram, rather. I call it Zen because it gives me peace. We need three elements to come together. First, this is me. Most of you know me, so I'm just going to skip my slide. In case you don't, I will just briefly tell you I've been with Silpack for 17 years. We've done a lot of innovation at Silpack. The sea freight box you see outside, that is my baby, if I can say that still. And a few others that we've worked with, Flower Watch, Christo when he was wearing a different hat, and many other projects. So, we talk of desirability as the key. What are we talking about? Evolving customer base. Today, the buyer of your flowers or your products are going to be millennials, maybe Gen Z, we don't know yet. What do they want? They want stories behind their purchases. They are not interested in product for product's case. They're not interested in price alone. They want to know the story behind their purchase. Where did it come from? Who cut it? Was it a 12-year-old slave boy in Eastern Asia? Was it a well-paid fair trade farm in the middle of Africa or Colombia? They want to know everything. How many chemicals went into that product? How many miles did it fly? What was the actual carbon footprint of that product? All these elements have now come together. And if you look at the Twitter feeds on product purchase and comments, you will realize that it can make or break your company or your brand if you misbehave. More and more ethical trading is required. Eco-friendly use of materials. Well, what is eco-friendly and to whom? That's a question that we still need to answer. We keep saying paper is better than plastic, but is it more eco-friendly? I challenge you to go on Google and type in, is paper better than plastic for environmental purposes? You'll be shocked at what you read. Efficient logistics. Here we're talking about understanding changes in the logistic systems. Aircraft has changed. We're no longer using MD-11s, DC-10s. We're using bigger, wider body aircrafts. How is that impacting the way in which you load the aircraft? Freight is changing. It lands into Holland, as Jeroen keeps saying, as many people know, when you're trucking it from Holland or Belgium inland or to your destination, the mode of transport is playing an important role. If you have 70% utilization of that freight channel, you're wasting money. Experience and ethics comes back to the evolving consumer. What is the consumer experiencing in purchasing your product? These are all the elements we look at when we're talking about desirability. The next thing we look at is feasibility. It's nice to have a wish list. Can we deliver? Do we understand what we're delivering? And I keep up this slide just for reference. This is what happens when you choose the right paper over the wrong paper. Heavier paper, but poor material choice is worse than lighter paper, which is more expensive, but better material choice. Overall, the farm, the grower, the consumer experience will improve with the right choice of materials. We all know about sustainability. That's the buzzword. It's been the buzzword for, I think, the last 5 years, but now it's getting louder and louder. Do we understand what we mean by sustainability? Yes, we want to use less materials. We want to lower our carbon footprint. But how are we actually doing this? Once again, I ask you to revisit Google or whichever search engine you like, ChatGPT, and ask the question, is paper better than plastic? I am a paper box maker, so genetically I'm predisposed to paper. However, I would be lying if I said that paper is better than plastic. If you want to have a truly circular, sustainable packaging channel, and you'd say no plastic, then you've cheated someone. Paper is not the solution there. And I can show you many, many examples of that. The third option that we always have to look for is viability. It's all good to have a feasible product, lighter paper, stronger paper, and the rest of it. Is it available? You will go to your box maker, those who are growers, will go to your box maker and say, yes, I heard about this sea freight box. I heard about this lightweight cart, and I heard about Solik. I heard about this, that, and the other. Can you make it? And you'll be told, no, I have this paper, I have this material, and I have this availability. Run with it. I was having a conversation with someone earlier over lunch, and they're using paper punnets instead of plastic punnets. And from the description of the material that they use, it was clear to me that that paper is actually what I would have used to print my avocado boxes. But I've just die cutted them for him to make paper punnets. Now that is the wrong solution, just to tick a box because the buyers insisted to go away from plastics. We need to make sure that the materials used are viable, available, and affordable. No one is going to pay a premium unless they have to, because I don't think you're going to get a better premium for your product unless you demonstrate the purpose of that choice. When we talk of boxes, there are many options. Leave alone the plastic box and the paper box conversation. Look at the materials that you're choosing. When you talk of innovation in box making, there is design change and there's also material choice. Are you pushing the envelope far enough? Are you getting the conversation out there? If you look at the sea freight box at the moment, it is totally new to the system, but it's not new to the box fraternity. But it took us, God knows how many years, but the project that was done in 2018, 2019, for us to identify that as a solution. When you come to the plastic sleeve that is used and demonstrated in the earlier slides, getting condensation and heating flowers up, what are the alternatives? People are choosing paper sleeves. However, are paper sleeves a solution for shipments out of Kenya? Will they survive the journey? Will they become wrappers of mulch, which you then you're going to replace in your destination? Ribbons and straps. Now, these are small things. Right now, everyone, I'm pretty sure, is using a plastic strap to strap their boxes. Are you aware of the paper alternative? There is a product out there which is equally as good in tensile strength to a plastic strap. However, is it available here? Not yet. Can it be made available? Yes. But right now there is no demand because plastic is so easily available and cheap, and no one is looking at the plastic strap when they're doing your KPIs on sustainability at your buyer's presence. However, if that changed, you will all then have to rush like how people have rushed for paper punnets, but using weak alternatives. It's time to start ahead of the curve, get together and have the conversations. Coming back to box and box designs, we've seen, I would say in the last 10 years, everything from internal corners, support systems, exoskeletons, cargo light type. We've had paper exoskeletons, we've had paper corners supporting boxes. All of them achieve the same thing in a different way, but they don't address the problems that we are trying to address. And why is that? It's because, again, there is no common goal. We are all trying to fix a problem which we see today with a solution provider which we know. And are we choosing the right solution provider to fix that problem? That is always the reason why you have odd solutions which hardly ever work. Or they work for a short time until version 2 comes out, and then version 3 comes out, and then we are back to version 4, which was the original design. I mean, we talk of all these innovations that have come in place, yet if you went to Kunenagel or Airflow or DHL, Total Touch, how many standard boxes are flying out? We've cried about the odd Zim box. They're still being used. Why are they still being used? If there was such a scourge on our systems, why are they still being used by everyone? There are buyers here who will insist on them. There are growers here who will swear by them. And the reason is simple. We do not have a viable alternative to make sense of it. And it's a fragmented supply chain when it comes to the box suppliers. And I can say that because I've been there. We are not in a position to have sufficient paper supplies. We don't have adequate competencies as an industry to make change. So this is where we all need to come together. We need to innovate. How do we do that? Do we have an R&D hub? At the moment, I am not aware of a single R&D hub. We've had R&D projects. Flora Holland put one together. Christo is aware of that. I think a few years ago, USAID or UKAID, one of them put one together with Flamingo, and we got together with the Sea Freight project. So R&D projects do come along. We've done a few with TwinPack and various other farms. We do them all the time with non-perishables. So R&D hubs don't exist, but R&D projects are being undertaken all the time. This is something which I picked up and I liked the idea and I'm going to run with it. Can you reuse packaging in the last mile? This is a statement done by a company called Florbox from a market survey they did back in Sweden, I believe. And they put the picture there, which is their winning entry. They put a class of university students to the task of making last mile packaging for flowers. And they came up with this flower sleeve, which can be taken with a sleeve handle, one piece, fits a solution, can be packed in a box, less paper used, flowers are protected, and it won. This did not take a lot of effort, but it did require a lot of elements to come together in an R&D setting and put together a simple solution. And this is what we are advocating today. What are the other opportunities? Recently, we had a discussion with a group that wants to do a promotion of vases within a box that travels to the end user, and the vase can be used in transit as a shield for the SFK and the rest of it, protect the flowers. When it gets to the end user, it slides down, attaches itself to a plate of some sort, and becomes a vase and can be reused by the buyer. Now, what is the story that that particular enterprise was trying to put out there? They were going to make those vases from recycled plastics. So A, they were recovering bad plastic from the environment, making use of it. They were going to use locals to paint individually all those plastics and pay money for it. So again, you've got a CSR story again attached to it. That whole product goes overseas. It becomes a selling item for that particular enterprise. Now, I'm not saying that this can be done commercially for every farm in Kenya, but think about it from the context that this particular innovation means that they're probably going to get an extra 10 to 15% for their product than yours, same going in a box with a plastic sleeve, because your story is different. This is a story that's going to be bought. And remember, we are moving to consumers who are buying stories and emotions that are really not saying, this is a rose and this is a rose, which is cheaper, let me buy the cheaper one. They're reading the labels. How much effort, I mean, if the growers in the room, may I ask you, how much effort do you put in the labeling of your product? Whether it's fair trade, whether it is eco-friendly, whether it is traceable. Any grower? Have we lost all the growers? Yeah, as best as you can. But on your website, I'm sure there's a story. Yeah, you advertise everything you've done for the community there. You've made sure your buyers, when they click onto the QR code on your stems, go to that website and read about your farm. Why do we do that? Because you're selling experiences, you're not selling product anymore, right? Gone are those days. Okay, there is a market for the people selling product. There's no doubt about that. But I think the premium markets are going into this experience concept. And that experience concept, like I said, you need to have a credible story which is backed up by credible action, right? So how do we go to that particular opportunity? These are the questions that we need to ask ourselves. Like I said, what are the innovations? I can summarize the innovations that are currently ongoing. You might be involved in them, you might not be involved in them. Matters not. On the box side, you've got changes in box design. You're seeing more and more exoskeletons. You're seeing more and more support structures. Question I have is, why are they needed? If you've got the right packaging to start with, you're adding paper for what purpose? Because you're increasing your carbon footprint. There is this business of the flowers generating heat because they're spread widely inside the box. If you strap the flowers from within the box as opposed to outside the box, you're going to create a natural gap between the flower and the cardboard, which is what an exoskeleton does. Then why do you need an exoskeleton? you're using up more space. If you've got a 2-inch gap between boxes and you've got 10 boxes, that's 20 inches, right? That could be another box. So at the same time as we're saying you need to optimize air freight, we are actually freighting air, right? So we need to see how we can make better use of the way in which we pack. And we've done this. We've gone to farms where they use sisal instead of plastic straps to strap their flowers. Now, some will argue, is that viable? Some will argue whether it's doable. I know these guys have been doing it for years, never complained. Box does not tear, and sisal, funny enough, as it gets wet, starts getting tauter. So it just makes it better product. Again, these are the kind of challenges that the box designs and shapes are changing to us. On the first page, if I can go back to the first page, if you see that picture, these are boxes that have been designed by Smurfit Kappa. And they are trying to match and pick and sort every kind of last mile challenge that comes up. And you've got stand-ups, you've got flats, you've got pizza boxes, e-commerce boxes, everything. So designs are out there, and they exist here as well. These are not hard to replicate. They're not patented. You can't patent these things. But what is important, and what Smurfit Kappa will not tell you from a website, is the material science behind those boxes, the manufacturing science, which is privy to them, privy to us when we were running Silpack for production and such things. So this is where you need to understand that it's not good enough taking a photograph to a box maker and saying, I saw this new design, replicate it. It doesn't work like that. You need to go under the skin. So box materials is where the innovation is now coming in. Today, you've got more and more paper science being advanced. Cold room challenges are known to everyone. They're not new to anyone, especially in Europe. They're being hit hard by plastics. So there is always going to be a better paper out there. Now, are you going to be strong enough to insist on that material from your suppliers, right? Coming back to the sleeves, or the sleeves, BOPP sleeves or CPP sleeves that most people use. Paper sleeves are available. Coated paper sleeves are available, though coated paper sleeves theoretically are worse than a plastic sleeve because you cannot recycle it. Though it looks like paper, it is actually the worst part. So where do you stand? Do you stand on paper? Do you stand on plastic? Or do you stand on the coated sleeve? Your buyers are going to dictate a lot of these solutions to you and tell you, look, I want you to use this because my brand is saying this. Fair enough. If you have the right box, then is the sleeve necessary? If you have the right box, is the SFK necessary? I remember when we did the SFK with the sea freight boxes in 2019, a lot of the growers did away with SFK. Why did they do away with SFK? Well, number one, there's no need to protect the flower because the flower doesn't move about too much, the bruising does not happen. If you palletize properly, the same is applied. But if you are at risk of that box being flipped over to make space in the airline or to make space on the trolley, you are going to suffer from bruising and you're going to be forced to use SFK. Coming to SFK on its own, we did a lot of change in the actual product used for SFK. So right now you've got a choice. Recycled material made locally, sometimes smelly, smells a bit like wastewater. Sometimes you get the white SFK from imports, and most importantly, you get the SFK which is in between, the brown kraft or so-called kraft that you get here. We were always making SFK to last 7 to 10 days. Even in South America, and South America is the benchmark of all SFK. Anyone in Kenya will tell you, get me South American SFK, that's the best. Why is it so good? They do one thing that the Kenyans don't. They fold the top. Paper SFK inherently will start coming apart after 6 to 10 days. It's inevitable. But if you fold the top and glue it, you're going to procure an SFK which will give you that squarish box look that you want when you compare a South American bunch to a Kenyan bunch after 10 days or 8 days, right? So this is the things that are changing, but there's nothing new there. It's just habits that are changing. Coming back now down to the innovation and what it can do and how we can do it. This is something that's going to be part of Reggie's panel discussion as well, but the whole system right now is too fragmented. We take on tasks based on our customers or projects we get drafted into, or generally what we do with our relationship partners or technical partners in Sweden, where they're doing a project and we come onto their project. But that's as far as it goes. However, that doesn't mean talent and expertise does not exist in Nairobi. It definitely does. There's enough data, there's enough knowledge, there's enough material, and there's enough science that is available. The biggest question is, how are we going to get the collaboration and the direction for it? It is easy for me to keep saying millennials and Gen Z. Very easy, because that's what I'll read on the first page of Google search. You are the buyers, you know your marketplace. We need the buyers or the growers to tell us, these are my 5 points of pain, and I want to fix that. We, being box makers and know the box making fraternity, already know the viability issue. Given that we're now also able to step back and be independent because we're not box making anymore, we can even do the feasibility and say, this makes sense. You're now misleading your customer by not telling him this. And I'll give you a clear example. If a project came to Silpack, we would first see what Silpack can make, because we don't charge for these services, but we need to get some return on it. So we would make the design and the structure based on our capabilities, not the capability in the marketplace. Now, we have not shortchanged anyone because we had the widest capability in the marketplace. But today, are you getting the same kind of service feedback from your current or incumbent suppliers? And are you able to go to them and say, look, you know what? I'm interested in this product. I want you to make it, but I want it made under my specifications, not what you have and not what you can make. And suddenly you'll start seeing that crystallization of that innovation coming through, right? Do we need to experiment or do we succeed? A lot of change is experiment, let's be honest. You know, if you even go back to the Greeks, a lot of the discoveries were experiments. Apple fell on Newton's head, that was an experiment or an accident. But that's not to say that we have to continue doing experiments. We need to crystallize effort and say, okay, look, I'm a grower, I know I have these problems, I can take it to someone, I can ask them to work on it. I'll draft in my logistics supplier because I have enough muscle to say to my logistics supplier, you are joining this team. I'll draft in Flower Watch, or I'll draft in someone else who I have confidence in to supply data. But innovation can be done. I think it's only a matter of time, right? Any questions? I have stunned you to silence.
My name is Martin Kabaka of Cargolite. At Cargolite, we innovate and develop packaging cartons for the industry. Mine is a comment. I agree with you that the cartons will work, or the boxes will work for some specific segments of the market. And at Cargolite, we have been able to identify these segments that, for example, Cargolite will work for. Here in Kenya and in Europe, in UK, we've gone to all these countries trying to identify these segments that Cargolite can work with, or it can work for. And already we've moved a very big step forward based on these segments. Thank you.
Cargolite, I know probably before you do, because we started Cargolite's box manufacturing at Silpack. We developed the carton element in Cargolite with Amnon and John at Silpack. So we are very familiar with that product. My point there is the beauty of Cargolite and the use of Cargolite is not universal. And that is not ever going to become universal. The same way the standard box is not universal, the same way the Zim box is not universal. There is a space for everything. But what we need to do is map and see where the largest deficiencies are. What can we learn from Cargolite? Because Cargolite, I can tell you, from the first day till today has evolved. You just had one box, one exoskeleton. Now you've got more sizes. You've got different options. And these are things that what we're saying is evolution, right? And this is what's necessary in our marketplace. But how do you do that? If Cargolite is tasked with innovation, it will fit the innovation according and around its current product base, right? And this is what my challenge is to the marketplace. Can we have a dedicated or an independent source or system to allow that to happen? And they may adopt and bless Cargolite, or they might adopt and bless something else. We don't know.
All right, let's appreciate Mr. Parit for that beautiful presentation.